Welcome to the Earth Feels Podcast.
I'm Rose.
And I'm Christine.
Welcome to Earth Feels, the podcast for people feeling overwhelmed by the endlessly gloomy climate news.
Where every week we have soul-based conversations about climate change and explore the idea that climate change may be happening for us as much as it is happening to us.
If you are ready to shift your focus and secure the future for our kids and our grandkids, then this is the podcast for you.
And yes, we do know how to spell.
Hello, Rose here. If you've been following the news since Joe Biden was inaugurated, undoubtedly you've seen and been uplifted by all the executive action he's taken on behalf of the planet, starting with returning to the Paris Climate Agreement, putting an end to the Keystone XL pipeline, appointing John Kerry as climate czar, and putting environmental justice front and center by nominating the first Native American, Deb Haaland, as Secretary for the Interior. Finally, we have an administration taking this existential threat seriously. An administration that's willing to take the bold action to halt climate change. So there's definitely hope on the horizon, but we can't kid ourselves. The problem is daunting. It's enormous. It's going to take each and every one of us doing our part. And honestly, many of us may be feeling that our individual actions are insignificant in the face of such a monumental problem. But I'm here asking you to trust me. Each and every action or inaction matters. Maybe not knowing where to start leaves you paralyzed. I get it. But in that case, this episode is designed for you. This week's question is, what is the greatest action we can take to help counteract climate change? And in this week's episode, to help answer that question, I contacted 11 climate professionals from around the globe to offer us their educated opinions. So a little bit about who you'll hear from. Some of our guests are climate reality alums, like Christine and I. Some of them are years into their climate journeys. Others, like me, have only awakened in recent years to this existential crisis. What they, we, and you all have in common, what our golden thread is the desire to stop the destruction that humanity is causing to Mother Earth and to all her sentient beings. So it's my hope that one of our guests will resonate and spur you along your climate journey. And to that end, I'll include a contact link for each guest on the earthfeelspodcast.com webpage. So let's get started. First up is veterinarian Gundy Rhodes from Australia. You may remember we featured Gundy in episodes 26 and 27 of last year during the catastrophic wildfires outside of Sydney.
Hi, my name is Dr. Gundy Rhodes. I'm a mother, a veterinarian, and an organic farmer. Yes, our world is in crisis, and it all seems like doom and gloom. On a global level, there is climate change, ecosystem collapse, the dying of the oceans, the bees dying, droughts, fires, and coronavirus. And on a private level, everyone seems touched by mental or physical disease like anxiety, depression, cancer, and so forth. So I have got 60 seconds to give you one tool as a solution for all. And that one tool is buy and eat organic food or grow your own. Agriculture is mostly industrialized, big-scale farming nowadays. And unless it is an organic farm, every inch of that land's soil is killed by chemicals emitting huge amount of greenhouse gases. Those chemicals poison the soil, the rivers and oceans. And it poisons you and your children. We are talking about 50% of the world's landmass. It's huge. The problem is huge, and therefore the solution is huge too. Organic farming or regenerative farming puts that carbon back into the soil, and very quickly. We can actually reverse climate change with those farming methods. The soils will be alive again, producing unpoisoned, nutritious foods. The bees and birds can live. Water cycles are restored, and the rivers and oceans can recover. One choice: buy organic food. And if we would all do that, honestly, our planet will be saved. And us.
Oh, I forgot to mention that Gundy was a Climate Reality alum. Thanks, Gundy. Our second guest is Harriet Sugarman, a.k.a. Climate Mama, from New Jersey, USA. Harriet is another Climate Reality alum and the author of the book, How Do We Talk to Our Kids About Climate Change? We featured Harriet in Earth Feels Podcast numbers 65 and 67. Again, I'll include those links.
We can plant seeds. Yes, we can plant seeds figuratively, and we can plant them literally. There is nothing like digging in the dirt, getting our hands dirty, planting a seed, and watching it grow on our own, with our family, with our children, with our friends. Life-affirming to watch life as it grows, as we nurture it and help it forward. And planting seeds figuratively, planting ideas, talking about the climate crisis, reminding each other what's at stake and that we're in it together, and that there are things that we can do to slow down this existential threat that faces us, one that we've created, but one that we can slow down. So take time to plant seeds, to watch them grow, to nurture them, to talk about the climate crisis, and to see as we build together and what we can make grow.
Thirdly, we have Liz Christo from the UK. Liz is the recent author of the about-to-be-released book, Spend Green and Save the World, Tackling Climate Change Through the Consumer-Led Movement. I'll be having a more in-depth interview with Liz in the next few weeks. So let's listen to what she has to say.
So you will have heard of suggestions like fly less, eat less meat, but I can't say which one of these is going to have the most impact on you because it's going to depend on your personal lifestyle choices. So the one greatest overarching action I'm saying we should take is to spend our money consciously and do that across the 4 areas of lifestyle that have the biggest impact on emissions. So that's consumer products, food, travel, empowering our homes. So go and use a carbon footprint calculator, understand where you're having the biggest impact, and start spending your money more consciously in that area. That's going to reduce your carbon emissions and, crucially, help shift culture away from mindless consumerism and towards a greener and fairer economy, because voting with your wallet holds so much power, because governments are subservient to big business. Businesses have to adapt or die to consumer demand. So we have the opportunity to shape businesses by how we choose to spend our money. And this creates culture shift, and policy shift follows culture shift. So before you spend your money, ask yourself, do I need this? Will I be better off spending my hard-earned money on a local business, sustainable business, co-op, not-for-profit, a charity, or an experience rather than on stuff that doesn't bring any real value to my life? This is how you're going to have the biggest impact on personal emissions today and create a sustainable tomorrow.
Our next climate professional is Richard Matthews, author of The Green Market Oracle. Richard was featured in a Best in Climate episode just this past month, in February of 2021.
In my view, the best single action to counteract climate change involves speaking out. Whether at work or with friends and family, we can share our concerns about the climate crisis and the all-important need for urgent action. Studies show that when people hear something from someone they trust, they tend to believe it. This is an important way of building the critical mass that's required to support climate-focused political leadership. The first thing we need to do is to step out of our echo chambers and realize that many people just don't understand the gravity of the threat, and some of those that do are paralyzed by fear. So we need to take a solution-oriented approach that is optimistic without being Pollyanna. One thing is certain, we need to do more than simply preach to the choir. That means speaking out when it may be uncomfortable to do so, or when your audience may not be receptive. When we speak to people who are unclear about climate science, we should not engage in bellicose rants or hit them over the head with facts, as facts on their own don't resonate with people. What we can do is ask questions that help us to understand their frame of reference. Relating to people from the common ground of our shared humanity forges an emotional connection that increases the likelihood that we will gain a receptive ear.
Here's Mayala Minassian, who bills herself as the chief environmental optimist. Don't you just love that? Of the Minassian Consultancy. Mayala is yet another Climate Reality alum. She's based out of San Diego, California, and hosts the podcast Tiny Climate Challenge.
At Tiny Climate Challenge, we like to share that no act is tiny. However, today, the one act that I would like to focus on is voting. The importance of voting in your local elections and in our national elections. It doesn't matter where you live. Vote for candidates who support science, facts, and evidence. As an environmental scientist, I know firsthand that science is so fundamental to building a healthier planet and a safer world for all of us. So get out there and vote whenever you can. We're all interconnected, and when we honor the earth, we honor ourselves.
Our sixth guest is Climate Reality leader Jen Wood from Vermont, USA. Jen's been mentoring Climate Reality trainees for years. In fact, she was my mentor in Toronto in 2015. And we featured Jen in episode 69. I'll include a link for Climate Reality training, which has now gone virtual. And I know that they're offering the next training coming up shortly. So I'll leave a link there for you if you're interested.
Hi, I'm Jen Wood, and I first want to share that I think it's important to follow your passions because there are so many actions you can take and so much work out there for all of us to do. Follow your passion, and that can be so impactful. As far as the biggest impact that I want to share, that I believe in, which is also part of my passion, is also steeped in data, science, and facts. And I want to point you to Paul Hawken's book, Drawdown. It's about not only stopping, but reversing climate change. And there are all these top solutions of what would be the most impactful. And he did this by creating a coalition of scientists, academics, researchers, all coming together to crunch the numbers and look at what would be the top solutions. And then number 4 happens to be the number one solution that an individual can take, the number one action, which is to eat a more plant-based diet. Now, you don't have to become vegan or a whole food plant-based person, but certainly feel free if you want to. But just by following the diet of eating more plants, it has huge impacts on the reduction of emissions, and it also is very healthy for the land. And speaking of health, it's not only healthy for the planet and the environment, but it's healthy for you.
Next up is Karamburu Ringara, who comes to us from Kenya.
My name is Dr. Karamburu Ringara, founder and president of International Peace Initiatives and the 3G Foundation. Our work is to inspire people to awaken to their highest self. I believe that the greatest action we can take to counteract climate change is to awaken to our highest self, to remember we are part of Mother Earth, to remember we are here to heal ourselves and our earth, our world as one. To remember we need to come back from the separatedness that we've created with our ways of life. To remember we are here to work with Mother Earth with respect, love, and humility so that we can heal ourselves and our earth and all sentient beings as we work together. For when each one is healed, the whole shall be healed. This is our calling. This is our highest being. To remember, we are here to heal together.
Thanks, Dr. Ringara. Your words speak truth directly to my heart. Our next climate professional is Charles Appleby, who comes to us from the UK.
Hello, my name is Charles Appleby. I'm the founder of NoCO2.org. We make it easy to remove our carbon footprint by planting lots of trees. I'm going to tell you a secret about the best way to stop global warming. My journey with global warming started on an aircraft, when I started to become aware of the impact of my CO2 emissions from air travel. How much CO2 was I creating? Today, we have planted over 300,000 trees and created over 3,000 days of paid work for families in extreme poverty. 2021 is such a critical year. It's almost certainly the last year we can limit global warming to 1.5 degrees. Yet today, the world is on track for over 3 degrees. So what can we do? Yes, some people are feeling helpless. Some are pretending all will be okay. Others are waiting for someone else to fix this. What everyone can do is to choose to stop global warming, not just in our mind, also in our heart, for the sake of our beautiful planet, the future of our children, and our amazing wildlife. It's time to choose. Will you choose to stop global warming? I presented this to a room of 200 people and a show of hands, and 90% agreed. Will you take this first step? Will you do this now? So what's next? Next is to take some action that will help stop global warming. You choose what. Then to share with others. How does it feel to be part of the solution?
So, choice. Every action and inaction is a choice. Can we become more mindful of what we're choosing? Next up from India is Tempe Gautam Zamla. We featured Tempe's essay, Dalai Lama, an Environmentalist, a Commitment of 70 Years, as Best in Climate in episode 75.
Hello, my name is Tempe Gautam Zamla. Climate change is a global issue that requires global action and cooperation. But for any global action or cooperation, we must lead by personal examples. According to a popular Tibetan saying, I quote, "Overindulgence leads to unnecessary wastage of resources, and unnecessary wastage of any resource is a major sin," unquote. Similarly, the modern lifestyle is led by excessive purchasing and consuming habits, resulting in a massive wastage of our natural resources and enormous greenhouse gas emission. So in my view, the most powerful example would be to start our personal habits of purchasing and consuming only what is essentially needed to live a decent and happy life. Such a correction in our lifestyle could contribute not only in reducing the enormous pressure modern lifestyle puts on the natural environment, but also help in tackling the root cause of rapid increase in carbon emission.
Next up is Dr. Daniel Christian Vall. Daniel's extensive body of work focuses on regeneration, transformation, and systems design. We featured his essay, Beyond Sustainability, We Are Living in a Century of Regeneration, in our Best in Climate episode 46.
The most important action that we can do to respond to climate change is maybe to understand that climate change is only a symptom of a deeper crisis. What comes to mind is Thich Nhat Hanh's reminder that what we most need to do at this point is to feel and hear the sound of the earth crying. We have to remember then that when we connect with the living earth, Gaia, as part of her and expressions of her, that we can act from a different place to respond to climate change. It is only when we begin to see that we are embodied elements and expressions of a living planet that we will find the wisdom to guide us towards the appropriate actions with climate change. This change in perception and this change in consciousness that will ultimately drive behavior change in many dimensions. So climate change is an urgent, important issue to respond to, but it is not the single problem. We have to avoid carbon myopia and understand that only when we tell a story where we are cultures that regenerate the earth, that we can respond to climate change appropriately.
And last, but certainly in no means least, is Claire Dubois. If you've been following Earth Feels Podcast for any amount of time, undoubtedly you will have heard me mention Claire's brainchild, Tree Sisters, which is one of my monthly gives. Tree Sisters' mission is to rapidly accelerate tropical reforestation by inspiring and channeling women's nature-based feminine leadership into local and global action. Essentially, Claire has brought together impoverished women and employed them to plant trees, while at the same time giving them the inner tools to empower them to take action. Pretty amazing stuff in my estimation. So let's hear from Claire.
The greatest gift that we can bring to the world right now is awareness, honesty, and the willingness to feel. In the face of climate change, we cannot expect ourselves to carry on as normal. We cannot expect to keep funding an economy that is rooted in the death of nature and expect this species to survive. In order to create major change, we have to wake up and allow ourselves to realize that we cannot carry on the way that we have been doing. And to do that, I would ask you to allow your heart to break. I would allow you to actually pay attention to everything that we are losing right now, to the futures that our children are losing right now, to put yourself in their position and to ask yourself how they feel and whether you can look them in the eye and say, yes, I am doing everything that I can to protect your future, because we're not. And until we own up to that, until we let ourselves actually let that crash into our psyches and let our hearts break, we will not put our own lives on the line, and we need to, for them. We get to live the most meaningful lives that anyone has ever lived by giving it our all, by putting ourselves completely forth with our gifts and our audacity, and living lives that steer a significant change. Be the change. Feel what's being asked to be felt.
So there you have it. 11 people passionate about making a difference in our world. And as you can hear, each of our guests has taken their love of our natural world and molded it into a contribution unique to their skill set. So if you're like me, you might be asking what you could possibly contribute. I'd ask you to sit really quietly over the next few days and ask how you can be of greater service. You may remember Christine and I detailing our crazy story about our climate journey, which for me started as I watched a 2019 David Attenborough documentary. I literally heard a voice say, ask Christine if she wants to do a podcast. And laughing, I answered, but I don't know what a podcast is. But as the voice repeated, I was far enough along on my journey that I knew enough to listen. So within 15 minutes, I had texted Christine and she agreed. The timing was perfect. And it came from beyond me. Let's just put it that way. We started Earth Feels Podcast in July of 2019. So my point here is, if I can do it, well, then you can do it. And now I'm going to get a little woo-woo on you. Surprise, surprise, right? My belief is that we are all here at this time to make a difference in our world, because we can make a difference in our world. All you need to do is make the commitment and step in. Not knowing how is not an excuse. Listen to your heart's promptings. You can learn all you need to know along the way. It's your passion and your caring that the world needs right now. I can promise you the adventure will astound you. And you can come back and thank me later. I'd like to close with a quotation from the environmental activist David Suzuki. David says, quote, "In a world of more than 7 billion people, each of us is a drop in the bucket. But with enough drops, we can fill any bucket." Thanks for listening. Be sure to check out earthfeelspodcast.com for links to all of our guests and their organizations. I'll catch you next time. That's this week's episode of Earth Feels. Special thanks to singer-songwriter Kristen Hoffman for generously allowing us to use Song for the Ocean. Thanks for listening.
Don't forget, subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss an episode. Catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Children of the earth, I'm calling out. There's a mission for you and for me.